Unicorns are one of the most majestic and storied creatures in all of mythology. But are you aware, among their many associations, they've also been connected to Cancer and the moon? Upon closer inspection, there's a surprising amount of water symbolism tied to the unicorn. One of my reference books called them the Lord of Rains, and several mentioned a myth regarding the last unicorn dying in the Great Flood. Its horn has also been considered a magical vessel or chalice capable of detecting poison. This is interesting because you're more than likely aware that the element of water is represented by the cups in tarot. Believe it or not, horses have had a long symbolic relationship with the ocean. As an example, a female horse is called a mare, which means sea in Latin. And curiously enough, a mare is also the name of the spots on the moon once believed to contain an ocean. Cancer is ruled by the moon, which has a well-known association with tides and all things oceanic. I'm also reminded that horses are closely related to traveling, much like the boat or chariot. In fact, I consider all of these to be journey symbols and largely part of the same lineage. And the Chariot card, which often depicts horses, is appropriately ruled by Cancer. And speaking of the Chariot card, there's a small detail in the Rider-Waite version I'd like to point out. Notice the star on top of the charioteer's head. This is none other than the North Star, which has also been called the Star of the Sea, or the guiding star. This is the star that everything revolves around from the perspective of Earth. For this reason, I like to call it the Star of Stars. Notice that it rests in the middle of these 4 posts, which are symbolic of the 4 cardinal directions or fixed signs, and is just beneath a canopy of stars. It's in the center, the same way it's in the center of the heavens that rotate above. This star is also called Polaris, or the pole star, because it relates to the polar axis. A number of ancient groups imagine a pole, tree, or bridge extending into the heavens from the north. This pole has been associated with a number of symbols, including the horn of the unicorn. Notice that the unicorn horn spirals as well. This is a metaphor for the rotation of the stars around the pole star. The stars revolve around the North Star, the same way the Cancer glyph is symbolic of the churning of heaven as well. In this way, I'm reminded of the wheel of a chariot, which has been the vehicle of countless deities. In other words, the horn of a unicorn is a representation of the hub or axle of the cosmic wheel of life. I also think it's interesting that Jupiter, the king of planets, is exalted in Cancer, and the unicorn has had a strong association with royalty. The unicorn even appears on the UK royal coat of arms. It's always chained and sits opposite the lion. It would make sense that the lion represents Leo, which is ruled by the sun, and the unicorn would represent Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. I find this connection even more intriguing when you take into account that Cancer and Leo are right next to each other and are the only signs to be ruled by the moon and the sun. Through this lens, the UK royal coat of arms depicts the age-old struggle between solar and lunar powers. But Cancer isn't the only constellation related to the unicorn. There are also those who say the unicorn is more closely associated with Capricorn. I find this curious because Cancer and Capricorn are actually polarities of each other and sit across from one another on the ecliptic. There's also the Monoceros or unicorn constellation as well, which of all places is surprisingly close to Cancer. And this unicorn intersects with the Milky Way galaxy, which is otherwise known as the River of Heaven. Given this watery association, I wasn't surprised to learn that some depictions of the night sky didn't show a unicorn, but instead a ship, which I find to be incredibly appropriate given everything we just discussed. As always, I'd love to know what you think. Thanks.